You know what started as a few random symptoms actually turned into a full-blown, full-on perimenopausal meltdown that I was not prepared for. In this episode, I'm going to share my own journey about my menopausal experience, what I did, what worked, what didn't work, and how I came out the other side feeling better than ever. And I lived to tell about it without having to use HRT. So if you are in the middle of this yourself or you're a practitioner supporting women in menopause, I got you, friends. Let's go. Welcome to the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Rhonda, your no-fluff, tell it like it is business bestie for wellness practitioners just like you who want to build a practice you love and make a bigger impact and a little money while you're at it. So if you're ready to ditch the overwhelm, attract your dream, ideal patients, and finally run your practice with complete confidence, you're in the right place. Each week, we're tackling things from programs to patient retention to marketing strategies that actually work, sprinkled, of course, with a little sass, a lot of heart, and the step-by-step strategies that will help you get there. So grab your cup of coffee, your notebook, or whatever keeps you going, and let's build a practice you love and a life you love together. Hey friends, welcome to the podcast. I'm going to get a little vulnerable on you today. And if you are a practitioner and you have been around women at all, you know that menopause is a sneaky little thing that can kind of come up and bite some women in the butt, so to speak, as it did me. I really wasn't expecting what happened, and this has been a few years, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through my own journey, what happened with me, and what I've learned, and now what I use and incorporate with women who are navigating this. The first thing I say, well, I wish someone would have told me, but I don't know if they would have told me if I'd have listened anyway, because sometimes a good experience, you just can't beat it. And now, I'm sorry for all you men that are listening because you're never going to experience it. But for you women who have, boy, I tell you, the compassion goes on high because it's just not a fun experience. If you've never, ever had it, if you're young enough or you're a man, let me just give you some down and dirty, real experience, what happened to me. And for those of you that are menopausal, you're out there going, yeah, baby, she's right. That's exactly how it goes. I know, because it's about the same for everyone. So what I'm going to talk about is just my own journey, and I thought it was relevant to really talk about what I found that worked and what didn't work, but with a caveat, meaning that everybody's different, you know? You don't know what's going to work for one person or another, so I'm going to give you just some things to kind of look at and kind of kick the tire to see if that might be the answer for your patient, because I tried so many things, and they did not work until I found the one thing, and I mean, I suffered, but I'll get into that in a minute. So here we go. I'm just going to support you however I can as it has to do with this conversation. So I noticed, I think the first time I ever had a hot flash, I thought, wow, I feel kind of warm right now. And I just blamed it on the room or the air or something like that. You just don't see it coming. And then the biggest sign for me, and I knew it at the time, but if I'm really being honest with y'all, I did not want to admit it. So for those of you that have been OGers and you've been hanging around with me for a while, you know that I was speaking for Standard Process for many, many years, about, 8-10 years. And I was traveling around the country speaking. And all during that time, not all during that time, but I was in the last probably 4 years of that time that I was traveling like that. I was gone 2 to 3 weekends a month. So I would work all week in the clinic, fly out Friday, teach Saturday, sometimes half a day on Sunday, fly back Sunday night, get home at midnight, 1 o'clock, and then get back in the clinic Monday morning. And I loved it and I wasn't unhappy. I loved it. But during that time, the symptom for me that was the worst, I wasn't tired. I mean, a little, but I didn't really attribute that to anything. But the symptom that was the absolute worst for me was heavy bleeding. And I mean, we're not talking heavy bleeding like heavy bleeding. We're talking hemorrhaging kind of heavy bleeding. And it didn't, I know. So some of you are going to go, what? You didn't know what? You know, you just don't know your own stuff because you're so into other people that we don't stop. And this is one of the, I think, limitations or risks of doing what we do is that we don't stop long enough to kind of tie in and key into what's going on because we're so, we just can't. We make better doctors than we do doctor for ourselves. We can doctor everybody else, but not ourselves. And that's kind of what was happening. So, I mean, I'm heavy bleeding for 8 or 9 days. I mean, profusely bleeding through at night, having to wear double protect. I mean, all of it happening. I remember thinking, and I know, don't judge. Listen over here. This is a judge-free zone. Are we clear about that? Yes, we are. So I hope. So anyway, I really love I've always loved iced coffee. I don't like warm beverages. I've never liked them even as a kid. Like I'll eat soup or stew, but it can't be piping hot. That's why I don't like hot coffee. I just don't like hot things. It makes me now, especially in menopause, I really don't like hot things. But even for years, in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I just didn't like hot things. I always kind of like things a little on the cooler side. Now, those of you that are acupuncturists, you're diagnosing me all over the place. I know it and I get it. But that's just the way it is. I love iced coffee. So what I found was, though, there all of a sudden was a day when I was like, oh, this ice is really good. I like the ice. The time, again, don't judge me. Look, I'm being vulnerable here with y'all, so no judgment. And so at the time, I was drinking crappy Starbucks coffee, and my coffee snobness had not kicked in. It's fully kicked in now, but it wasn't at the time, because you can't be coffee snob and drink Starbucks coffee. But anyway, I would go there and I would say, could I just have an extra cup of ice? Well, some of you may not know that Starbucks has 4 sizes. They have the small size, tall, and then grande, or tall. Is that it? Grande? I don't remember because I haven't been there in so long. But they have this really big size that's like a monster size, and it's called the Trenta. And I found out about this because I made friends, of course, with the baristas, and they have this Trenta size. And I used to ask them, as this progressed and got worse and worse, you know where I'm going with this, I think. I would ask for three, count them, Trenta cups of ice. And I would chew on that ice. It was like perfect because it wasn't solid. I wasn't worried about my teeth. I kind of knew how I could crunch it and not, damage my teeth super bad. And all in the back of my mind, sorry for the siren, all in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is fine. I just like ice. I just like cold drinks. But I think somewhere secretly back there, I thought, okay, I got a problem. I think this could be like severe anemia. But I didn't want to look, honest. I didn't want to look. I'm like, I'll get through this heavy bleeding. I know, I've figured out now that I'm kind of in perimenopause. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get through this and the periods are going to stop one day and then I'm going to be fine. For many of you, you know that I work with professional co-op. That's who I like to get my blood drawn through. So I happened to be talking to Bill one day, the owner of professional co-op, and I said, something about came up. He goes, you haven't done a blood test in a while. And I said, oh yeah, I need to do one. So I do the blood test. Well, it comes back and I'm like transfusible low, like transfusible, like alert, red, danger, so much so that Bill actually called my office and said, Rhonda, we got a problem here. This is a problem. I just didn't, because my energy, I thought I was fine. I wasn't real tired. I'm like a go, go, go. I'm like the Energizer Bunny all the time. So that didn't work out very well for me because I was so horribly anemic. And when I saw that, I went, oh, was face to face with the reality of those were my symptoms. And that was how it was affecting me. And this ice issue was a big, big, big problem. And what happens is, periods for women, like their periods will still be normal. I was literally having a completely normal period. It was just bleeding for a long time. I would bleed, and then it would taper off for a day or two and then stop. And then I would go a month. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's normal. I've got 30 days in between, not counting the fact that I was hemorrhaging for 8 or 9 days. And so what happens during that period of time is that fluctuating estrogen and progesterone causes the cycles to either shorten or they'll lengthen or they get really irregular. And so for me, that was my symptom. It wasn't fatigue. It wasn't brain fog. It wasn't any of that. I just had these heavy periods. And this perimenopause period of time is anywhere from 4 to 10 years before menopause actually happens. Now, just for a point of clarification, menopause technically, okay? Peri, before, right? Near, during, or around. So perimenopause is before. Menopause is the 12 months where the woman does not have a cycle. That is menopause. After that 12-month period is what we refer to as postmenopause. So I think sometimes we say, oh, I'm in menopause. Well, actually, are you? Or are you in your postmenopausal period? That's why that term exists. So menopause is the 12 months with no cycle. So other symptoms that women might have during these perimenopause, I didn't really have these other than I had bad hot flashes. I did have that. Not so much night sweats, but my hot flashes were bad as it progressed on. But some women will have irritability, anxiety, mood issues, fatigue, vaginal dryness or discomfort or atrophy. They'll have decreased libido, breast tenderness, sometimes brain fog. Sometimes some women will get bloating and joint pain and like weight gain around the lower abdomen. Those are all symptoms that are really common during perimenopause, and they can extend into menopause and postmenopause. But when I finally kind of figured it out, I was like, oh boy, I got a problem here. So I started I did a liver detox. And so the 21-day purification, which I love from Standard Process, I love it. So I did that 21-day, and that definitely slowed the bleeding, and it always will. So clinical tip, if you have someone who's heavy bleeding, whether they're in perimenopause or, just in their reproductive years and they're heavy bleeding, that 21-day will fix the problem. It really works well because it clears all those excess hormones out, helps to kind of balance everything. So I did that. That really helped, but it didn't stop the ice chewing because I knew that I was anemic. So I thought, okay, well, I know for sure I need to get some iron support. So at the time, this was 7 years ago. I'm 7 years now post-menopause since my last period. So I guess that's 6 years technically, right? So I thought, well, I'm got to get some iron support. So at the time, I was using a lot of Standard Process, and I used Pharaoh food. Now I would probably use Hermetic formula, but nonetheless, they're both going to work much the same. So I started using Pharaoh food, but I was still bleeding fairly heavy. It wasn't as bad as it was after the liver cleanse, the 21-day purification. So I thought, but I got to get these hot flashes under control. And mine were, in the beginning, they were so bad, I would cry. They were so bad, and I had literally sweat dripping down my back, and I would have to change my pants because I was so soaking wet. I mean, sweat everywhere, from the neck, backs of my legs. I could not get away from it, and it's horrible. It's just horrible. So I thought, I have got to get these. I will sell my firstborn. I will give my firstborn child away if I can get rid of these hot flashes. They were so bad. So I started by I thought, okay, I'm going to try some hypothalamus support because I know that the hypothalamus regulates temperature. So that seemed obvious to me. Again, I'm not being a very good doctor because you can't doctor yourself. I wish I would have gotten help, or I wish I would have had this podcast because that would have helped me a lot. Anyway, I started with hypothalamus support, didn't touch it. Then I thought, well, I know blood sugar and stress can do it. So I started with some AF beta food, I think, at the time. And I did some adrenal complex and Drenamine. Again, I was only using Standard Process at the time. And I thought, okay, adrenal support, adrenal tonic, the liquid works phenomenal. And I felt better, my energy picked up, but I didn't think I had an energy problem. But that's just me being an overachiever and not paying attention. But it didn't stop the hot flashes. Nothing fixed them. And I remember standing in my closet one day looking up at a pile of my favorite sweaters. And this was in the, early fall, where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to wear these sweaters. And I remember standing in my closet crying, thinking, I'm never going to be able to wear a sweater again. It just gave me anxiety just thinking about putting a sweater on my body because I was so dang hot. Then I tried Sage Liquid. It's an anti-hyperhidrotic, so it's great for excessive sweating. Did not touch it. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try wild yam complex or black cohosh, which that really didn't work because I had the liquid black cohosh. I overdosed on it and got a massive headache, which is a side effect if you take too much. Because again, I'm not paying attention. I just dumped some in a cup, added some water, and back it went. Worst headache I've ever had in my life. So be careful with black cohosh. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm just saying watch the dose if you use the liquid. I tried Shatavari. I tried Dong Quai. I just tried everything, and nothing would touch the hot flashes. And finally, I don't know what happened to me. One day I probably was on the road teaching, and I remember thinking, oh, wait a minute, Tribulus might help. And I thought, well, I haven't tried that. I'm up to trying anything. And in 48 hours, they were 80% better. And I thought I had won the lottery. For Pete's sakes, my hot flashes are better. I was like, oh my gosh, worked like a charm. And my cycles were still heavy, but the hot flashes decreased, and I felt like I was going to live and not die because I really thought I was going to die. So I combined the Tribulus with some adaptogens because I knew that the adrenals were part of it as well. And I was eating, my diet was good. And I thought, okay, everything's going to be great. Well, I cruise along like that for maybe 9 months or so. And then I, have one cycle, and it's slowly kind of getting better. I've got some ongoing liver support in here too. And it's slowly starting to get better. And finally, I thought, okay, anytime. And I'm praying, God, please stop these cycles. Now, kicker is the average age in the U.S. is 51 to 52 is the average age for women to have their final cycle. I was 56. 56. I went through an extra 5 years of this torment. Thank you very much. And I'm begging God, please take this away from me, please. So I have one cycle, and then nothing. And then nothing the next month, and nothing the next month. And I went 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And I'm like, yeah, baby, I'm home free. I'm in the 12-month window. And when it's been 12 months and you have no cycle, you're technically out of menopause, and you've now crossed over the final bridge into officially post-menopause, right? 11 months and 14 days, I have another cycle. Oh my gosh. I thought, are you flipping kidding me? What is happening right now? So I had to start the dang clock all over again. So by the time this was all said and done, I guess I had 24 months of menopause. But anyway, by the time it was all said and done, I was 57 when I had my very last cycle, and I did not use HRT. I did not use it. I would not use it. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. You did not use HRT, and I'm still happily married. My husband, he's a saint. He's just a saint. So anyway, I made it through menopause. But here's what I want you to know. That HRT is what many women will resort to. Now, I suffered probably unnecessarily because I didn't get help. I was just busy and on the road, and my travel and time zones, traveling and teaching, and it's exhausting to do that because you're flying and teaching and on your feet, a lot of cerebral work. But I loved it. But I think I just wasn't caring for myself like I needed to during that. I want to say it's like a precious time. That perimenopausal window is when we need to encourage women to do a lot of self-care, and self-care being more introspective. What do I need? What does my body need right now while I'm in this kind of turbulent period of hormonal tension in the body, where those ovaries are starting to tone down, but yet a woman is kind of coming into a different phase of her life. Emotions change. It's the number one time that women will get divorced. Well, I shouldn't say number one, but it's a very key point because she kind of realizes, she kind of gets a voice, and she's like, I've put up with this. I'm in this unhappy relationship, or, I want something different for my life. And I'm not advocating divorce at all. I'm just saying it happens, but it's because she kind of goes through, it really truly is a transition. So a lot of women, when they start getting these symptoms, they'll reach for HRT. Well, I didn't want to jump on that bandwagon because I've worked with enough women and their spouses and their children to know that the bioidentical hormones do not always stay with the woman. They get shared and passed around through to their spouse, their children, through skin-to-skin contact. In fact, this is one of my big soapboxes, and I recorded a podcast about this. I'm thinking about it now. I don't know what the episode number is off the top of my head. I'll link it though in the show notes. But the problem is that the HRT, especially the topical, it leaks out through the skin, and you're going to share it with everyone else. Now, sometimes you can have passive transfer like that, and you end up having symptoms that are not really good because your husband or spouse might be getting hormonal and start acting odd and weird. Your kids might start getting aggressive or start showing some signs of abnormal hormone. Could cause early puberty in young girls if a mom's using hormones and then she's snuggling up with her little baby girl like she should be, right, her little one, and they're cuddling and holding hands and all the things that moms do with kids. That HRT, I wasn't willing to take that risk. Now, I don't have children that live with me, but I definitely wasn't going to risk giving them to my husband. So I said no, and I'm not making HRT the enemy. I can hear some of you want to come at me, and don't come at me because this is just my clinical experience. And there are many practitioners that have a different opinion, and it's okay. It's all right. This is just mine. And I have a right to have an opinion about this, and I do, and it is a strong one. I'm always open and willing, but so far I've never ever had enough information to be convinced. So don't come at me with all your information because I've probably read it all, studied it all the things. For me, this is a decision that I've made. So HRT doesn't really address the problem, right? It just manages the symptoms. But when do we get these women off of HRT? Like how in their menopause, so they go into menopause, you're going to stay on HRT till you're 80? Well, that's what happens. So we end up women stay on the HRT for a long time, and they don't need to, and we never get to support the endogenous hormone function of the body, and that's what I don't like about it. We don't have the opportunity to support normal adrenal health and transition and supporting those adrenal glands. We can't see it because the HRT kind of covers it up. So I think the nuance is that the HRT isn't necessarily evil, but it's not always the answer. And then there are other things in this process that we often miss, and that is the relationship between the liver and the gut. So the liver and the gut and the hormones, because the microbiome synthesizes a lot of these hormones. In fact, we know that 20% or so of our female hormones are synthesized by gut bacteria. But yet, I was trying to take care of myself. I wasn't doctoring myself. Now I think about that when I have a patient that is in menopause and she's struggling with some symptoms. I think, okay, I'm asking the question, how can we support her liver? I'm also asking the question, how can I support her gut microbiome? I want everyone, all hands on deck. Every single system that I can work on, I want to work on. I want a full triage approach to be able to help her as she's navigating this perimenopause timeline. And if she's having some symptoms and she's in perimenopause and I see her, I'm even more thankful, because that's when I can get in and do as much corrective work as possible before she has her last cycle, before she gets into that menopause and then postmenopausal period. I've also found that self-care, I mentioned that, like, I wasn't caring for myself well. I really wasn't caring for myself. I wasn't caring for myself emotionally, my body, physically, because I love what I do. So I was just working hard and happy, but that wasn't in my best interest. And I think also we don't often talk to patients too about what's their support structure look like? Where's their emotional support come from? Do they have girlfriends? Women relationships and women girlfriends, really important for helping to calm the nervous system, to bring emotional stability into her world, because this change always brings with it a lot of emotional upheaval. And then the value of having boundaries, and this is what I see often, like women will start to say, I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. I remember when my mom told me one time, and I think back now, I didn't understand it at the time because I was raising kids. I remember when my mom told me, you can't come over unless you call me first. And I remember being so offended by that. I was like, what? You are my mom, and that's my house that I grew up in, and I should be able to stop by anytime I want. And although she didn't defend her boundary. She just let us walk right over it. And I walked right over it. I'm like, no, you're not going to tell me no, if I want to come over and say hi or bring the kids or whatever. But now in hindsight, now that I'm there, I get what was happening. She was trying to draw a boundary, and I didn't respect that boundary because I didn't understand the boundary. And she probably could have communicated it a little differently. I don't know. But I see that that's what happens. In perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, women start to want to reestablish what's okay and not okay for them. And we have to understand that and then help them be able to make those decisions, encourage them that that's a normal part of this dramatic shift in the way she thinks, the way she feels, the way she perceives her body, the way that she interacts with people, her relationships, all of that changes. And I didn't know, I didn't, you know it, but you don't understand it until it happens. And then you go, oh, that's what was going on. That's where I needed the extra support. I wish I would have known. So here's what I do now to kind of bring it home. Here's what I do now. Well, because I've had such good experience with Tribulus, and I still absolutely love Tribulus from MediHerb, I'm going to always recommend it. But I put them on Tribulus. Now, it doesn't work for everyone like it worked for me, and that's okay. But I know that I have other options, right? I can use Hypothalamic, or I can use Sage for hot flashes. I should have clarified. Tribulus for the hot flashes. It just works so well. I find that it works more often than not. Once in a while, I'll get someone that doesn't work for, but most of the time, Tribulus works. The dose is 4 per day. The second thing that I'm going to always give in perimenopause is Chaste Tree. Chaste Tree or Vitex is the go-to support for perimenopause because it helps with LH, and it's really, I call Chaste Tree the bridge. It's the bridge from full-on reproductive years. It's the herb that carries them across into the perimenopausal, through the perimenopausal years into menopause. Chaste Tree is not a good one for menopause. Not that it's going to hurt, but it's not going to help. That's not what it does in the body. It's really supposed to act and work with a reproductive cycle like LH, right? FSH and LH. In menopause, those hormones are quiet. So Chaste Tree is one that I love using. Dong Quai is good because it helps support estrogen modulation and also uterine tone. So it's a great one during reproductive years, but also the perimenopause years. Black cohosh is really good for hot flashes and mood swings, especially during the early period of menopause. I just took too much, so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know what I did, and I remember talking to Lee Carroll about that, and he just rolled his eyes. He goes, yeah, wicked headache, huh? And I said, yeah, bad, really bad. So just make sure that you're dosing it correctly, and it's fine. There's another company called Symphony, and you may not have heard me talk about this, but Symphony, you can find them at at symphonynaturalhealth.com. I'll link it in the show notes. But they have a maca product that's great. All of their products are made from maca, and it supports libido, energy, mood without really impacting hormones too much. They do have some that are more, they're just modulating. Let's just put it that way. But maca can be a really good option. Shatavari is a Ayurvedic herb, good for just overall female reproductive, more for her reproductive years, I guess. And then wild yam works for some, but not for others. And it's better, in my opinion, during menopause, post-menopause, rather than in that perimenopausal period. So save the wild yam for later, right? Don't chase tree early, wild yam later. And then, you want to make sure that you're thinking about bone health. Like, what are the other things that could go wrong? What are the other things that can change on you during perimenopause? MediHerb has a great bone health product. You can also make sure that there's like good folate to be able to make sure that mood, methylation, detoxification, all that stuff is working. And then fatty acids are also important during this perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause timeline, as well as I mentioned, liver support. I don't think you can overemphasize the importance of improving phase 2, because phase 2 is where it gets stuck, right? Phase 1 works pretty good, and then all that stuff gets stuck in that intermediate phase. Phase 2 gets locked up. It's like a gear, it just freezes. And the 21-day purification or Liviplex or Livco or Liva Detox and Support, whatever your supplement company is that you want to use, the phase 1, phase 2 is really essential. And then I feel like where I really missed it was in the lifestyle and caring for myself. So that's something that I really do emphasize with them. Like, I get them moving. They need to be doing strength training exercises, body weight to be able to improve bone health, weight-bearing exercise, and then just movement, stretching, walking, go jogging or anything like that. Just movement. And then sleep hygiene is always really important. Breath work, meditation, journaling, even journaling for 5 minutes, even closing your eyes and just stopping and letting your body just have a hot minute to kind of reset as a point of like meditation. It doesn't have to be long. You don't have to do an hour meditation. It just could be 3 to 5 minutes, but something just to quiet that nervous system, to calm that energy down a little bit. Acupuncture, chiropractic, of course, those things are always great. If there's urinary incontinence or urinary issues, then pelvic floor therapy can work really well. So I hope this was helpful for you. I wanted to just share some of my takeaways from my own menopausal journey. And as a result, many of you know that, like, if it hits home for you, if this information hits home for you and you really do want help, I've got more training, more information inside Clinical Academy, a full lesson, a full training on menopausal years. So go there, get signed up if you want more information. I really do love this topic, and I think that it's an important one, but I wanted to share my own journey so that it might give you a little bit of real, honest, raw perspective about questions that you can ask for your menopausal, perimenopause, postmenopausal patients, so that you kind of know how to connect with them, how to ask the right questions, and make sure that they're getting the support that they need, because they really do need you. And, in hindsight, I wish that I had reached out and said, okay, I'm too busy. I'm too in it myself. I need someone else to help me, someone objective outside. One of you could have helped me and directed I would have taken it all, but I just was too involved in the middle of it, and I didn't reach out for help. So if you do have those menopausal patients that are working with you, they're asking for your help. And these are some of the things that you can point them to or redirect them to help them have a better transition into menopause, and then support them in that postmenopausal years so that they feel good, they get to enjoy life, and they don't have to struggle with all of these unpleasant side effects, because they are not fun. So there you go, friend. I hope this was helpful for you there. Have an amazing week. I'll be back next week with more on the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast.